The catering manager was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He was demanding $4,000 for a Venetian dessert bar I did not order, for a party I was not even invited to. "Ma'am, your signature is on the contract," he spat, his voice cracking with the kind of stress that comes from losing a commission. I stared at the PDF he had just emailed to my work address. It was my signature, all right, but it was pixelated and slightly blurry at the edges, clearly copied and pasted from the co-sign document from my sister's car loan 3 years ago. That was the moment I stopped being the family doormat and started being their prosecutor. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I woke up at 5 in the morning, not because of an alarm, but because my brain decided to run a terrifying audit of my checking account before I even opened my eyes. Today was the 10th. Rent was due on the 1st, which I had paid, but the electric bill was lurking around the 15th, and I had exactly $412.33 to my name. I rolled out of bed, careful not to creak the floorboards. We live in one of those charming rental houses where the charm is mostly just structural instability, masked by 20 layers of beige paint. I padded into the kitchen and opened the banking app on my phone. The screen glowed too bright in the dark kitchen. $412. I did the mental math for the 1,000th time. If I kept the grocery run under $60, and if the gas tank in my Corolla lasted until next Friday, I could pull off this party. I opened the fridge. Inside sat the massive sheet cake I had wrestled home from Costco yesterday. It was decorated with bright green frosting that spelled Level 10 Unlocked in a font that looked like Minecraft blocks. Max was obsessed with pixels. I ran my finger along the cardboard edge of the cake box. I had spent $40 on that cake. $40 was a tank of gas. $40 was 2 weeks of school lunches. But I had promised him. "No plastic chairs this time, right, Mom?" he had asked me last week, his eyes wide and serious. "No plastic chairs, baby. Real seats and family," I had promised. I started the coffee maker, listening to it gurgle and spit. I was 33 years old, working 50 hours a week untangling Cat 6 cables in server rooms that were colder than a meat locker, and I was still counting pennies like a college student. But today had to be perfect. My mother, Marilyn, had sworn on her life she would be here. "We will be there, Jordan. Noon sharp. Wouldn't miss double digits," she had said. My sister Stacy had promised to bring the ice. My brother Mitch said he would stop by after his consulting gig, which I was 90% sure was just him sleeping until noon and going to the gym. I sat at the wobbly kitchen table and made a list on the back of an old envelope. 1. Pick up balloons. Dollar store. 2. Clean the bathroom. Again. 3. Text Mom for ETA. I picked up my phone and typed, "Hey, party starts at 1. Drive safe." I hit send. It was 6 in the morning. I knew she was asleep, but I needed the timestamp. I needed the proof that I had reached out. Being the responsible one means you always have to create a paper trail for your own existence. By 11 o'clock, the humidity in the backyard was already sitting at about 90%. I was sweating through my t-shirt as I fought with the grill. It was a beat-up Weber I had rescued from the curb 3 years ago. One of the legs was held on by duct tape and a prayer. "Come on, you piece of junk," I muttered, trying to scrub the rust off the grate with a wire brush that was shedding bristles dangerously fast. The backyard was skinny, basically a glorified alleyway of dead grass between our house and the neighbor's fence, but I had done my best. I had taped blue streamers to the fence posts, though the humidity was making them sag like wet toilet paper. I had blown up 20 balloons until my jaw ached and tied them to the railing of the back porch. "Jordan, you need a hand?" I looked up, wiping soot from my forehead. Mrs. Holloway was peering over the fence. She was in her 70s, wore floral housecoats exclusively, and had a terrifyingly sharp memory for neighborhood gossip. "I think I'm winning, Mrs. Holloway," I lied, gesturing to the grill with the wire brush. "Just getting the charcoal ready." I saw you dragging those tables out, she said. You got enough chairs? I have those folding ones in the shed, the metal ones that don't pinch your bottom. I hesitated. I didn't want to be a charity case. Oh, we should be fine. My family is bringing some camp chairs. Mrs. Holloway looked at the 3 empty plastic chairs I had set up. She looked at the sagging streamers. She didn't say, "Your family is unreliable." She just nodded. "I'll leave them by the gate, just in case you need extra seating for the crowd." She disappeared back into her garden. I felt a flush of embarrassment heat up my neck, hotter than the charcoal. She knew. I checked my phone. 11:15. No reply from Marilyn. No reply from Stacy. I went back to the grill. I poured the charcoal into a pyramid. I doused it in lighter fluid, probably too much because when I threw the match in, it whooshed up with a sound like a jet engine and singed the hair on my arm. "Okay," I said to the fire, "we are doing this." I ran inside to check on the food. I had bought the store-brand hot dogs, the ones that come in the family pack, and 3 bags of generic chips. I dumped the chips into bowls. I arranged the napkins. I checked my phone again. 11:30. Read 11:30 a.m. Marilyn had read the text. She hadn't replied. My stomach gave a little lurch, like I had missed a step on a staircase. She read it. She was probably driving. That was it. She was driving and couldn't text. 1 o'clock came, then 1:15. The street was lined with cars, but none of them belonged to my family. They belonged to the parents of Max's friends from school. 6 boys were currently running around my tiny backyard, screaming their heads off, hitting a soccer ball against the fence. Max was in heaven. He was wearing his favorite jersey, his face flushed red from the heat. "Mom, watch this!" he yelled, kicking the ball into the inflatable goal I had rented for $80. "Nice shot, baby!" I yelled back, clapping my hands. My smile felt tight. It felt like a mask made of dried clay. I was standing by the cooler, clutching my phone so hard my knuckles were white. 1:30. I unlocked the screen. Still nothing. I opened the family group chat. Me. "Hey everyone. Boys are here. Pizza is coming in 30. You guys close?" The message sat there. Delivered. Stacy was online. I saw the little green dot next to her name. Then the dot vanished. "Jordan, honey, do you have any more ice?" I jumped. It was one of the moms, Sarah. She was holding a warm juice box. "Sorry to bother you, it's just really hot out here." "Oh, shoot," I said, my voice rising an octave. "My sister, she was supposed to bring the extra bags of ice. The cooler lid is actually cracked, so it melts fast. Let me check the freezer." I ran into the kitchen. The freezer was empty except for a bag of frozen peas and the pizza rolls for later. I had relied on Stacy. I had explicitly asked, "Can you bring 2 bags of ice?" And she had sent a thumbs-up emoji. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, the sounds of the party muffled by the back door. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the frozen peas through the window. Instead, I grabbed a hammer and the bag of peas, smashed it on the counter to break them up, and ran back outside. "Here," I said, dumping the frozen peas over the juice boxes. "Improvised cooling solution." Sarah laughed politely. "Resourceful. Is your family on their way?" "Traffic," I said quickly. "You know how the interstate gets on Saturdays. A total nightmare." I looked at the gate. It remained closed. At 2 o'clock, the pizza delivery car pulled up. It was a beat-up Honda Civic with a muffler that sounded like a lawnmower. I walked to the front yard to meet him. I had ordered 5 large pizzas, pepperoni, cheese, and 1 veggie for Aunt Linda, just in case she showed up, even though she hadn't RSVP'd. The driver was a teenager with acne scars and a name tag that said Brendan. He balanced the stack of boxes on one arm. "That'll be $82.50, he said. I pulled out my wallet. I had withdrawn cash yesterday to avoid the delivery fee on the card. I handed him 4 20s and a 5. "Keep the change," I said. He started to hand me the pizzas, but I hesitated. I looked down the street. It was empty, just heat shimmering off the asphalt. "Hey, actually," I said, shifting my weight, Do you mind hanging on for just a second? I think my mom is pulling in right now and she might want to add wings. She always forgets to order wings. Brendan looked at me. He looked down the empty street. There were no cars coming. There was not even a squirrel moving. He said. I have another delivery in 10 minutes. Just 1 minute, I pleaded. I sounded desperate. I knew I sounded desperate. She drives a red SUV. She's probably right around the corner. We stood there in the silence. The sun beat down on us. The smell of pepperoni and cardboard wafted up, mixing with the scent of hot pavement. Brendan shifted the boxes. He looked at the empty street again, then back at me. His eyes softened in a way that made me want to dissolve into the ground. It wasn't annoyance. It was pity. "Ma'am," he said gently, "nobody's coming around the corner." He shoved the boxes into my arms. "You look good with just that amount. The kids will eat it all anyway." He got back in his loud car and drove away. I stood there holding 5 pizzas, feeling the heat from the boxes burn through my shirt. "You look good with just that amount." He thought I had over-ordered for a party nobody was attending, and he was right. By 4:30, the last parent had picked up their kid. The backyard was a wasteland of crushed juice boxes, deflated balloons, and paper plates with half-eaten crusts. Max was sitting on the back steps, trying to untie his cleats. He looked happy, but tired. "Did Grandma get lost?" he asked, not looking up. I froze. I was holding a black garbage bag stuffing red Solo cups into it. "Yeah, buddy," I said. I think her car might have had trouble. You know how old that thing is." "Okay," he said. He didn't ask about Aunt Stacy or Uncle Mitch. He just accepted it. That was the worst part. He was used to it. He was 10 years old and he had already learned that his extended family were theoretical concepts rather than actual people. I sent him inside to play Minecraft. I stayed outside to finish cleaning. I scraped the frosting off the leftover cake, so much leftover cake, into the trash. I folded Mrs. Holloway's chairs, the metal clanging loudly in the quiet evening. My phone buzzed in my back pocket. My heart hammered against my ribs. I pulled it out, my hands trembling slightly from a mix of exhaustion and low blood sugar. It was Marilyn. Marilyn. "Don't be dramatic, Jordan. It's just a kid's party. We got busy." I stared at the screen. I read it again. "Don't be dramatic." There was no "I'm sorry," no happy birthday to Max, no explanation of what busy meant, just an accusation, as if my expectation of their presence was an emotional burden I was placing on them. I felt a physical wave of nausea roll through me. It wasn't sadness. Sadness is heavy. This was sharp. It felt like swallowing a bag of tacks. She hadn't just ghosted us, she was preemptively attacking me for being upset about it. I typed out a response. "You promised." I deleted it. "He waited for you." I deleted it. "Where were you?" I deleted it. I put the phone in my pocket and screamed into the garbage bag, a short guttural sound that nobody heard. Then I tied the bag shut and dragged it to the curb. It was 11 at night. Max was asleep, passed out in a sugar coma with his new Lego set clutched in his hand. I was lying on the couch in the dark, the blue light of my phone illuminating the dust motes in the air. I shouldn't have been looking. I knew I shouldn't have been looking. But pain is magnetic. I opened Instagram. Stacy had blocked me from seeing her stories a few months ago after I commented on a post asking why she couldn't pay me back the $50 she borrowed. But Mitch wasn't smart enough to block me. I went to his profile. His story ring was lit up in angry gradient colors. I tapped it. Posted 6 hours ago. Location: the Gilded Brunch and Bistro. It was a boomerang video. Clinking glasses, mimosas overflowing with orange juice and champagne. The camera panned around a white tablecloth covered in expensive plates. Eggs Benedict, lobster tails, a tower of oysters. There was Marilyn. She was wearing her big sunglasses indoors, laughing at something off camera, holding a glass. There was Stacy. She was doing a peace sign with her fingers, her mouth open in a fake laugh. And there was Mitch. The camera zoomed in on Mitch's arm as he reached for a crab leg. He was wearing the watch, the heavy silver chronograph watch I had bought him for his birthday last year, the one that cost me $300 because he said he needed to look professional for interviews. He wasn't at an interview. He wasn't at a consulting gig. He was at a brunch that cost at least $60 a head, 20 minutes away from my house, while my son ate pizza on a folding chair and wondered why he wasn't important enough. The caption on the video read, "Self-Care Saturday with the Fam. Blessed I, good vibes only, the fam." The family. Something inside my chest didn't just break, it calcified. It hardened into something cold and sharp. I took a screenshot. The flash on the screen was blinding. I saved it to a new folder on my phone. I named the folder Receipts. I didn't cry. I had cried at his 5th birthday when they missed it. I had cried at his 8th. Tonight, I just looked at the timestamp. They were eating lobster while I was scraping charcoal. I put the phone down on the coffee table. "Okay," I whispered to the empty room. "Okay." A week later, I was sitting at the kitchen table sorting through a stack of utility bills that I had been avoiding. The air conditioning was off to save money, so the windows were open, letting in the sound of a distant lawnmower and the oppressive afternoon heat. My phone chimed with the specific, jarring tritone I had assigned to the family group chat. I hadn't left the group yet. Call it morbid curiosity or a tactical need to keep tabs on the enemy, but I had stayed silent, lurking in the digital shadows. I picked up the phone. A message from Marilyn. "Marilyn, update on Tanya's Sweet 16. Please read the attached PDF carefully. Deadlines are strict." I tapped the file. It opened with a little animated flurry of digital confetti that probably drained 2% of my battery. The document was titled, Tanya's Royal Ball. It was 5 pages long. Page 1. A photo of my niece, Tanya, wearing a tiara that looked suspiciously like real crystal, not plastic. Page 2. The menu. Filet mignon, lobster bisque. Page 3. The contribution tier. I zoomed in. My fingers pinched the screen, spreading apart to read the fine print. Guest contribution. $250 per person. Payment method. Venmo to Marilyn directly. I blinked. $250 for a teenager's birthday party. I read the next line and the air left my lungs as if I had been punched in the solar plexus. Note: family members are expected to cover the elder share. Jordan, please include Grandma's ticket in your transfer. Total due, $500. I laughed. It was a dry, cracking sound that startled the cat sleeping on the windowsill. They wanted $500. They had skipped my son's 10th birthday, a pizza party that cost me less than $200 total, and now, 7 days later, they were invoicing me $500 for a party I hadn't even said yes to. I looked at the time. It was 4 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. I had exactly $330 in my checking account. I didn't type a furious paragraph. I didn't call Marilyn to scream. I didn't text Stacy to ask if she was out of her mind. The anger that had been burning inside me for a week suddenly cooled into something very precise. It was the clarity of a sniper. I opened the Venmo app. I found Marilyn's profile. Her picture was a selfie of her and Mitch, pouting at the camera. I tapped pay or request. I typed in the number $1. In the what's this for field, I typed a single word. Congratulations. Not no, not I can't afford it. Just congratulations. It was the ultimate dismissal. It was me saying, I see your demand and I am giving you the value I place on our relationship. I hit pay. The screen whooshed. Sent. Then, without closing the app, I tapped the 3 dots in the corner of her profile. Block user. Are you sure? Yes, I said out loud to the empty kitchen. I am sure. I went to my contacts. Marilyn, block. Stacy, block. Mitch, block. Grandma's landline, which Marilyn monitored, block. My thumb moved rhythmically like I was playing a video game. Tap, tap, block, tap, tap, block. When I was done, the phone felt lighter in my hand. The silence in the kitchen wasn't heavy anymore. It was fortified. An hour later, the euphoria of the block faded, replaced by a cold, pragmatic dread. They had keys. 3 years ago, when I was the responsible one, the one who watered their plants and fed their dogs and picked up their mail, I had given Marilyn a spare key for emergencies. Emergencies like, "Jordan, I need to borrow your carpet cleaner while you're at work." I walked to the front door and stared at the deadbolt. It was old, brassy, and compromised. I couldn't risk it, not after the dollar bill. That was a declaration of war, and Marilyn did not fight fair. I Googled cheap locksmith near me. I called the first number. "A1 Lock and Key," a gruff voice answered. "Hi," I said, leaning my forehead against the doorframe. "I need a rekey. Today, like right now." "Emergency rate is extra," the voice said. $80 service call plus parts and labor." I closed my eyes. How much total? Depends on the lock. Usually runs about $180. $180. That was more than half of my remaining money. That was the grocery budget for the rest of the month. I looked at the lock again. I imagined Mitch letting himself in while I was at work to talk sense into me. I imagined coming home to find my TV gone because you owe us for the party. "Come over," I said. When the locksmith arrived, he was a giant man with a beard that reached his chest. He didn't ask questions. He just drilled out the old cylinder with a screeching metal-on-metal sound that set my teeth on edge. 30 minutes later, he handed me 2 shiny silver keys. $185, he said. "Tax included." I swiped my debit card. Approved. I locked the door. I unlocked it. I locked it again. The thunk of the bolt sliding home was the most expensive sound I had ever heard, but it was the first time in years I felt like I actually owned my own space. 2 days passed. Silence. Then, on Thursday evening at 7 o'clock, the pounding started. It wasn't a polite knock. It was a heavy, authoritative thudding that shook the frame of the house. Bang, bang, bang. Max was in the living room building a Lego castle on the rug. He jumped, dropping a gray brick. "Mom?" he whispered. His eyes were wide. I wiped my hands on a dish towel. I was drying a pot and walked to the door. I peered through the peephole. Blue uniforms, badges, 2 officers. My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted. I opened the door slowly, leaving the chain latch on for a second, before realizing that looked suspicious, so I undid it. "Can I help you?" I asked. My voice was tight. The older officer, a man with graying temples and a name tag that read, Officer Reynolds, looked at a clipboard. "Are you Jordan?" "Yes." "We received a call requesting a welfare check on a minor at this address. Also a report of potential mental instability of the resident." I gripped the edge of the door. "Excuse me?" "The caller stated that you were sending erratic messages and might be a danger to yourself or the child," Reynolds said. His tone was neutral, bored even. He was just doing a job. Marilyn. She couldn't text me, so she called the police. She weaponized the 911 dispatcher because I sent her $1. "Come in," I said, stepping back. I made a sweeping gesture with my hand. "Please, come in." The 2 officers stepped into my small living room. They looked around. They saw the clean floor. They saw the TV playing a cartoon at a reasonable volume. They saw Max looking up at them with terrified innocence. "Hi, buddy," the younger officer said. "Cool castle." Max nodded mutely. "It's a fortress," he squeaked. I stood by the kitchen counter. My arms crossed so tightly across my chest I was cutting off circulation. "My mother is angry because I didn't give her money for a party," I said. "That is the mental instability, being poor and saying no." Officer Reynolds looked at me. He looked at Max. He looked at the lack of empty liquor bottles or drug paraphernalia. "Right," he said. He closed his notebook. Looks like everything is fine here. He turned to me. Ma'am, these disputes, they tie up resources. If she calls again, we have to come again. It's the law. I understand, I said. I blocked her number. I assumed that would stop the harassment. Apparently, I was wrong. Have a good night, Reynolds said. They left. I locked the new deadbolt. I leaned my back against the door and slid down until I was sitting on the floor. My legs felt like jelly. They had sent armed men to my house because of $1. The next morning, the adrenaline crash hit me hard. I overslept by 20 minutes. Max, shoes, now, I yelled, rushing around the kitchen, throwing a juice box and a granola bar into his backpack. We ran out the door at 7:45. School started at 8. I had to be at the client site by 8:30. I strapped Max into the back seat of the Corolla. I jumped into the driver's seat and turned the key. Click. Silence. Click, 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 click. No, I moaned. I hit the steering wheel with the heel of my hand. No, not today. I tried again. The engine gave a pathetic groan and died. Battery, or alternator, or the universe just hating me. I looked at the dashboard clock. 7:48. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel. I wanted to cry, but crying wouldn't charge the battery. I saw movement in my peripheral vision. Mrs. Holloway was watering her petunias next door. I swallowed my pride. It tasted like ash. I got out of the car. Mrs. Holloway, she looked up, shielding her eyes from the morning sun. Car trouble, dear? Dead battery, I said. Do you have cables? And a car that starts? She put down her watering can. I have a portable jumper pack in the garage. My son bought it for me. Let me get it. She came back a minute later with a red plastic box. She hooked it up to my battery with surprising efficiency. Turn it over, she commanded. I turned the key. The engine roared to life. Thank you, I said, my voice trembling. I am so sorry to ask. Mrs. Holloway began unhooking the clamps. She looked at me over the popped hood. Her eyes were sharp, scanning my face. Your mother called my house yesterday, she said casually. I froze. What? She looked up my number in the phone book, wanted to know if I had seen strange men coming and going from your place, wanted to know if you were drinking. Mrs. Holloway snapped the plastic case shut. I told her the only strange thing around here was a grandmother who doesn't show up for a birthday party. She handed me the jumper pack. You keep this in your trunk for a few days, just in case. Go get that boy to school. I dropped Max off with 2 minutes to spare and made it to the client site, a law firm downtown where I was recabling a server closet, by 8:40. My hands were covered in gray dust and little cuts from the zip ties. At lunch, I sat in my car, eating a squashed peanut butter sandwich. I needed to find a mechanic who wouldn't rip me off. I remembered Stacy had posted about a guy named Al a few months ago who fixed her brakes cheap. I hesitated. I had them all blocked. If I unblocked Stacy to check her timeline, she might see I was online. Just for a second, I told myself. Get the number, then reblock. I opened Instagram. I went to settings. Blocked accounts. I tapped Stacy. Unblock. I navigated to her profile quickly, scrolling past the brunch photos that still made my stomach turn. I was looking for a picture of a car. Instead, I saw a post from this morning. It was a graphic, gold background, cursive font. Tanya Sweet 16, official sponsors. There were 3 logos at the bottom, a local florist, a DJ company, and my name. Gold tier sponsor, Jordan Crawford. Thank you to our loving aunt and sister for making the dessert bar possible. I stared at the screen. The peanut butter sandwich turned into cement in my mouth. Gold tier. The dessert bar. The venue manager had screamed at me about a $4,000 dessert bar. I clicked on the tag in the photo. It led to the venue's page, the Crystal Gardens. I scrolled through their recent posts. There it was again. A thank you story thanking the sponsors for their generous deposits. They hadn't just put my name on a flyer, they had told the venue I was paying. And if my name was listed as a sponsor on public marketing materials, and I didn't refute it, panic, cold and sharp, washed over me. This wasn't just family drama anymore. This was fraud. I sat in my car in the parking lot of the law firm, the engine idling to keep the air conditioning running, burning gas I couldn't afford. My thumb hovered over the phone number listed on the Crystal Gardens Instagram page. I took a breath that rattled in my chest and hit call. It rang 4 times. "Events! This is Gary!" A voice barked. It sounded rushed, distracted by the clatter of silverware in the background. "Hi, Gary. My name is Jordan Crawford. I'm calling because I just saw my name listed as a gold-tier sponsor for the Tanya Miller Sweet 16 next weekend." Miller Party, right, the dessert bar sponsor. He typed something on a keyboard that sounded like he was punching the keys with hammers. "We're actually missing the second half of that deposit, Jordan. You were supposed to wire the remaining $2,000 yesterday." I felt the blood drain from my face. "$2,000? I choked out. "Wait, no, I didn't agree to this. I didn't sign anything." "You need to take my name down." The typing stopped. The silence on the other end was sudden and dangerous. "Excuse me?" Gary's voice dropped an octave. "Ma'am, the chocolate fountain is already ordered. The custom marzipan fruits are being sculpted. You can't just take your name down 5 days out." "I never put my name up," I shouted, losing my cool. "I don't know who told you I was paying, but—" "Your signature told me you were paying," Gary shouted back. The phone speaker crackled. "I have a signed contract right here, PDF, dated 3 weeks ago. Jordan Crawford agrees to cover the Venetian dessert package. Total cost $4,000. $4,000. My vision swam. $4,000 was my rent for 4 months. It was a used car. It was a life. "Send it to me," I said, my voice shaking. "Email me that contract right now." "I'm sending it to the email on file. But listen to me, lady. If this check doesn't clear by Friday, I'm not just canceling the chocolate. I'm sending this to collections. I don't play games with my inventory." Ping. A notification appeared at the top of my screen. New email, Crystal Gardens, executed agreement. "I got it," I whispered. "Friday, Jordan, noon." He hung up. The line went dead. I opened the email. I downloaded the PDF. I scrolled past the legal jargon to the bottom of the last page. There was the signature line. Sponsor, Jordan Crawford. And there, in black ink, was my signature. It was my loop on the J, my sharp cross on the T. It was my hand, but I hadn't held a pen for them in years. I didn't go back to work immediately. I couldn't. My hands were shaking too badly to punch down wires. I told my boss I had a family emergency, which wasn't a lie, and drove home, disregarding the speed limit. I ran inside and went straight to the second bedroom, which served as a storage closet. I shoved aside the vacuum cleaner and the winter coats to get to the filing cabinet. It was an ugly beige metal thing I had bought at a garage sale. "Think, Jordan. Think," I muttered, yanking the drawers open. If that signature was real, they got it from somewhere. I pulled out the file marked Family Important. This file was thick. It held birth certificates I had rescued, bail bond receipts for Mitch from 2018, and the lease agreement I had co-signed for Stacy when she forgot to pay her previous landlord. I grabbed the lease. No, I had signed that electronically. I grabbed the bail bond. That was a carbon copy, too faint. Then I saw it. The loan document for Stacy's Toyota Camry 3 years ago. She had needed a co-signer because her credit score was non-existent. I had gone to the dealership with her. I had signed with a wet ink pen. I held the document up to the light. I opened the PDF on my phone and zoomed in until the screen was just black and white pixels. I looked at the J. On the car loan, there was a tiny hesitation mark at the top of the loop where the pen had skipped on the paper, a microscopic gap in the ink. I looked at the PDF from the venue. There, pixelated but distinct, was the exact same gap, and under the end in Jordan, there was a speck. On the car loan paper, it was a coffee stain, a tiny brown dot where I had splattered a drop of latte 3 years ago. On the venue contract, the dot was black. It had been scanned in grayscale. "You idiots," I breathed. The air in the room felt electric. They hadn't even cleaned up the scan. They had scanned the car loan, cropped my signature in something basic like paint, and pasted it onto the venue contract. It wasn't just fraud, it was lazy fraud. I took a picture of the car loan document. Then I took a picture of the PDF on my laptop screen. I opened a photo editing app and overlaid them. Perfect match. My phone buzzed. It was my boss, Dave. "Dave, need you back at the site. Server rack 4 is overheating. Client is freaking out. Overtime approved." I looked at the clock. It was 2 in the afternoon. I was exhausted. My eyes felt like they were full of sand. But overtime meant time and a half. It meant $45 an hour. If I was going to fight a $4,000 fraudulent debt, I needed every cent. "On my way," I texted back. I drove back to the city. The server room was freezing, kept at 65 degrees to protect the equipment. The fans from the server blades roared like a jet engine, a constant white noise that drilled into my skull. I spent 4 hours on my knees on the raised anti-static floor, rerouting cables that looked like blue spaghetti. My fingers were raw. I cut my knuckle on a sharp metal edge of the rack and had to wrap it in electrical tape because I didn't have a Band-Aid. Every time my phone vibrated in my pocket, I jumped. Was it Gary, the venue manager? Was it the police again? Was it Marilyn calling to scream? At 7 o'clock, Dave stuck his head in. "You good, Jordan? You look like hell." "I'm fine," I said, not looking up from the patch panel. "Just tired." "I appreciate you staying. I'll put you down for 6 hours extra." "Thanks, Dave." That was $270, before tax. It was a drop in the bucket, but it was a drop I earned. I clocked out at 8:15. The office building was dark, the cleaning crew pushing their carts through the lobby with the squeak of rubber wheels. I walked out to the parking lot. It was a concrete structure, dimly lit by flickering yellow sodium lights. My footsteps echoed. I reached my Corolla and fumbled for my keys. "Jordan!" I spun around, dropping my keys. They clattered on the asphalt. Mitch was leaning against the concrete pillar behind me. He was wearing a tight t-shirt that showed off his gym muscles and the watch I had bought him. The silver glinted in the bad light. "You scared me," I said, backing up until my legs hit the bumper of my car. "What are you doing here? How did you know where I was?" "Stacy tracks your location on Snapchat, genius. You never turned it off," Mitch said. He pushed off the pillar and took a step toward me. He smelled of expensive cologne and stale cigarette smoke. "Stay back," I said. "Relax. I just came to talk. Mom is crying, Jordan, like literally sobbing on the floor. You're killing her with this." "I'm killing her?" I laughed. A harsh sound? "You guys forged my signature on a $4,000 contract. That's a felony, Mitch. Do you know what felony means?" Mitch waved his hand dismissively. "It's not a big deal. We just needed a guarantor to hold the date. We were going to pay it back with the envelope money from the party. You know how it works. Guests bring cash, we pay the venue. Easy." "And if they don't bring $4,000 in cash?" I asked. Mitch shrugged. "Then you cover the difference. You have a steady job. You're the rich one." "I have $140 in my bank account," I said. "And I am not the rich one. I am the working one." Mitch stepped closer. He was a foot taller than me. He used his size to intimidate, looming over me. "Just pay the deposit, Jordan. Stop being a bitch. Fix it. That's what you do." I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I held it up, screen facing him. "I am dialing building security," I said. "There are cameras right there. If you take one more step, I hit send." Mitch looked at the phone. He looked at the camera mounted on the ceiling. He sneered. "You're pathetic," he spat. "Turning on your own blood." Go away, Mitch. He turned and walked to his car, a leased BMW that I knew he couldn't afford. He peeled out of the garage, tires screeching. I waited until his taillights disappeared before I picked up my keys. My hands were shaking so hard it took me 3 tries to unlock the door. When I got home, there was a notice on my door. Sorry we missed you. Certified mail. But underneath it, stuck into the door jamb, was a thick envelope. The mailman hadn't followed procedure. He had just left it. The return address was the Law Offices of Thorne and Associates. It was printed on heavy cream-colored paper. I walked into the kitchen and ripped it open. Dear Ms. Crawford, re-breach of verbal and written contract, emotional distress. We represent Ms. Marilyn Crawford and Ms. Tanya Miller. It has come to our attention that you have reneged on a financial commitment regarding the event scheduled for October 24th. Your withdrawal of support has caused significant financial damages and severe emotional trauma to a minor. We are demanding immediate reimbursement of committed funds in the amount of $5,000 plus legal fees. Failure to remit payment within 48 hours will result in immediate litigation. Sincerely, Jonathan Thorne-esque. I dropped the letter on the counter. $5,000 plus legal fees. My knees gave out. I grabbed the edge of the counter to keep from falling. They had a lawyer. How did they have money for a lawyer if they couldn't pay for the party? Unless they found someone to take the case on contingency, or maybe Aunt Linda paid for it. I paced the kitchen. 5 paces to the fridge, 5 paces to the stove. I can't fight a lawyer, I whispered. I can't afford a lawyer. If they sued me, I would have to miss work for court. I would lose my job. I would lose the apartment. For a second, the old programming kicked in. Just pay it. Take out a high-interest loan. Sell the car. Fix it. It would be easier to just drown in debt than to fight this monster. I sat at the table with my head in my hands for 10 minutes. The letter lay in front of me like a death sentence. Then I looked at it again. Something about the logo bothered me. It was a set of scales of justice, but the image was slightly pixelated, just like my signature. I opened my laptop. I typed Thorne and Associates into Google. No results for a law firm. There was a dentist in Ohio and a landscape architect in Florida. No lawyers. I typed the address listed on the letterhead. 1400 Corporate Drive, Suite 200. Google Maps pulled up a strip mall. Suite 200 was a UPS store. It was a mailbox rental. I typed legal letterhead template free into Google Images. I scrolled for 30 seconds. There it was. The exact same cream background, the exact same scales of Justice logo, the exact same font for the header. The sample text even used the name Jonathan Thorne as the placeholder name. They hadn't even changed the fake lawyer's name. Stacy. It had to be Stacy. She had downloaded a template, filled in her grievances, and printed it on nice paper she probably stole from her office temp job. The fear that had been gripping my throat vanished instantly. It was replaced by a cold, burning rage. They thought I was stupid. They thought I was so beaten down, so conditioned to obey that I wouldn't check. They were wrong. I picked up the letter. I didn't rip it up. I walked to my scanner and scanned it at the highest resolution possible. I named the file Exhibit B, Extortion Attempt. Then I opened a new email draft. Subject, regarding your fraudulent claims. I wasn't sending it to the fake lawyer, I was sending it to the venue. It was 11:30 on Friday morning. I had 30 minutes before Gary, the venue manager, executed his threat to send my name to collections. I sat at my kitchen table, my laptop open, a mug of cold coffee sitting untouched beside me. I opened the email draft I had started the night before. To Gary Events, crystalgardens.com. Subject, urgent, fraudulent contract, cease and desist. I typed steadily, my fingers hitting the keys with a rhythm that felt like hammering nails into a coffin. Dear Gary, attached you will find 3 documents. Attachment A, the signed contract you sent me. Attachment B, a car loan agreement from 3 years ago. Please note the identical pixelation artifacts on the signature, specifically the ink gap in the J and the coffee stain under the N. Your contract is a digital forgery. Attachment C, a police report number, case number 409-22B, filed regarding harassment by the individuals organizing this party. I paused. I needed to go for the jugular. I couldn't just ask him to stop. I had to make him afraid. I have already consulted with local law enforcement regarding identity theft. If you proceed with charging me or selling this fraudulent debt to a collections agency, I will name Crystal Gardens as a co-conspirator in the police investigation. You accepted a digital copy of a signature without verifying identity. That is negligence. Remove my name immediately. Confirm in writing that the debt is void. Jordan Crawford. I attached the files. The progress bar for the upload crawled across the screen. Sent. I stared at the timestamp. 11:38. Now I waited. I didn't have to wait long. At 11:45, my phone rang. It was the venue's number. I let it go to voicemail. I wanted everything in writing. 2 minutes later, an email chimed. From Gary, Events, crystalgardens.com. Subject urgent. Fraudulent contract. Cease and desist. I clicked it open, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. Ms. Crawford. We have reviewed the documents. We were unaware of the provenance of the signature provided by Mrs. Marilyn Crawford. Crystal Gardens has a zero-tolerance policy for fraudulent bookings. Your name has been removed from all promotional materials effective immediately. The sponsorship has been voided. You are not financially liable for any balance. We have contacted the event organizer to demand an alternative form of payment by 5 p.m. today, or the event will be canceled. We apologize for the confusion. I exhaled. The air rushed out of me in a long, shuddering sigh that lasted nearly 10 seconds. They had folded. Gary wasn't scary anymore. He was just a man terrified of a lawsuit. I took a screenshot of the email. I saved it to the receipts folder. I saved it to the cloud. I emailed a copy to my work address. I was safe, but I knew them. When you corner a rat, it doesn't surrender. It bites. Saturday morning, the day of the party. I was making pancakes for Max. The kitchen smelled of vanilla and burning butter because I had the heat too high. We were laughing. Max was trying to flip a pancake and failing miserably, splattering batter on the stove. Knock, knock, knock. The sound was different this time, sharper, faster. Max froze, the spatula mid-air. "Is it Grandma?" he asked, hope flickering in his eyes like a candle. "Stay here, baby," I said. I walked to the door. I looked through the peephole. Police, again. But this time, it wasn't Reynolds. It was 2 new officers, one tall, one short, and standing on the sidewalk behind them, looking triumphantly tragic in a black dress, was my sister Stacy. I opened the door. "Ma'am, we're responding to a call regarding theft of property," the tall officer said. He looked tired. "Theft?" I repeated. I looked past him at Stacy. She was typing on her phone, refusing to make eye contact. "Ms. Stacy Miller claims you are in possession of a KitchenAid stand mixer belonging to her mother, Marilyn Crawford. She states you took it from their residence without permission 2 months ago." I stared at them. The mixer. The red KitchenAid mixer I had bought for myself for Christmas last year. The one Marilyn had admired. Once, when she came over to borrow sugar and then started telling everyone was hers because Jordan doesn't even bake. "She says she has a witness who saw you take it," the officer continued. "Let me guess," I said, my voice deadpan. "Her brother, Mitch?" The officer blinked. "Yes, actually." "I didn't take it," I said. "I bought it, with my own money, from Best Buy." "Can you prove that, ma'am? Otherwise, we might need to recover the property to avoid a civil dispute." "Do not touch my property," I said, stepping back into the house. "Wait right there." I ran to the filing cabinet. I am the responsible one. I keep everything. I keep the manuals for toasters I threw away 5 years ago. I pulled out the file marked warranties. I thumbed through the stapled papers. TV, vacuum, microwave. There. A faded thermal receipt from Best Buy, dated December 12th. Item, KitchenAid Artisan Series 5QT red. Card ending in 4402, my debit card. I grabbed it and walked back to the door. I held the receipt up to the officer's face. December 12th, I said. Paid with my card. Here's the transaction ID. You can call the store. The officer took the receipt. He read it. He looked at Stacy, who was now craning her neck to see what I had produced. Ms. Miller, the officer called out. This receipt is in the resident's name. Stacy's face twisted. She forged it. She's a liar. She probably printed that off the internet. The officer looked back at me. He handed me the receipt. Ma'am, this looks authentic to me. He lowered his voice. This is the second time we've been out here this week, isn't it? Yes, I said. Monday was a welfare check because I wouldn't pay for a party. Today is a theft report because I wouldn't pay for a party. The officer sighed. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a card. This is harassment, he said quietly. You need to go to the courthouse on Monday. File for a restraining order. Bring this receipt. Bring the police report numbers. He turned his back to me and walked toward Stacy. Ms. Miller, we are done here. If you call 911 again for a false report, I will cite you for misuse of emergency services. Leave the property. Stacy shrieked something about injustice, but she got in her car and drove away. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I thought it might be the venue again, so I answered. Hello? Jordan, it's Aunt Linda. I stiffened. Aunt Linda, the peacekeeper, the rug sweeper, the woman who watched her siblings burn down the world and then asked everyone to toast marshmallows. Hi, Linda, I said coldly. Honey, I just heard from Marilyn. She is beside herself. The police, at your house, again? They sent them, Linda. Stacy called them on me. I know, Linda cooed. Her voice was like warm syrup, sticky and suffocating. They're just upset. Emotions are high. But Jordan, you have to be the bigger person here. You know how your mother gets. How she gets? I asked. She tried to have me arrested for stealing my own blender. She's just hurt because you pulled the funding for Tanya's party. Listen, I can wire you $500 right now. You just transfer it to the venue, put your name back on the list, and we can all pretend this never happened. Just smooth it over, for the family. Pretend it never happened, I repeated. Yes, we'll save a seat for you and Max tonight. It'll be beautiful. Just fix it, Jordan. Fix it. The trigger phrase. Linda, I said, Marilyn forged my signature. That is a crime. Stacy filed a false police report. That is a crime. If you give them money, that's your choice. But I am done fixing things. Jordan, don't be like this. You'll regret losing your family. I already lost them, I said. They left me in a backyard with 5 pizzas and a crying 10-year-old. I hung up. I blocked the number. I went back to the kitchen. The pancakes were cold. Max was sitting at the table, poking at his stack with a fork. He looked small. Are the police coming back? He asked quietly. I sat down next to him. I pushed his hair back from his forehead. No, baby. They aren't coming back. Is Grandma mad at us? I took a deep breath. I had read all the parenting books about not bad-mouthing relatives, but the books didn't cover felony forgery. Grandma and Aunt Stacy, they aren't acting like good family right now, I said carefully. Family is supposed to keep you safe. They are supposed to tell the truth. Right now, they aren't doing those things. Max looked at me with those devastatingly clear eyes. So we're alone. No, I said fiercely. We aren't alone. We have each other. We have Mrs. Holloway. We have your friends. I looked at the living room, at the half-built Lego castle on the rug. You know how you build a fortress to keep the bad guys out? I asked. Max nodded. Well, I'm building a fortress around us, a real one, and the rule is only people who are kind get to come inside. Max thought about this. He chewed a bite of cold pancake. Can Mrs. Holloway come inside? Yes. Can Brendan the pizza guy come inside? I laughed, a genuine laugh that surprised me. Yes, Brendan is invited. Okay, Max said. Then we're good. He went back to eating. Simple as that. He trusted me to build the wall. Now I just had to make sure it held. Saturday night. The clock on the dashboard read 7:30. While the Crystal Gardens was presumably descending into chaos, I was pulling into the parking lot of Retrocade, a dusty strip mall arcade that smelled of stale popcorn and ozone. You ready to lose, Mom? Max asked, unbuckling his seatbelt. In your dreams, kid, I said. I had withdrawn $40 in quarters. It felt like a fortune. It was a fortune. A week ago, $40 was a crisis. Tonight, it was freedom. We walked in. The noise hit us instantly. A cacophony of beeps, synthesized explosions, and classic rock blaring from overhead speakers. It was dark, lit only by the glowing screens of Pac-Man and Galaga cabinets. Street Fighter first, Max declared, running toward the machine. We played for 3 hours straight. We ate hot dogs that were spinning on those metal rollers for probably a day too long. We drank slushies that turned our tongues bright blue. I watched Max laugh. Not a polite, thank you for the gift laugh. A real, deep belly laugh when he beat my high score on skee ball. At 9 o'clock, I checked my phone. Habit is a hard thing to break. I had no notifications, no frantic texts from Stacy asking where the chocolate was, no angry voicemails from Marilyn, because they were blocked. For the first time in my adult life, a family event was happening, and I wasn't pacing the floor wondering if I had done enough to please them. I was watching my son win a plastic spider ring with tickets he earned himself. Best birthday ever, Max mumbled on the ride home, his head leaning against the cool window. But your birthday was last week, I said. Nah, he said sleepily. That was just the day I turned 10. Today is the party. Sunday morning. The hangover from the blue slushy sugar crash was real, but the silence in the house was beautiful. At 10 o'clock, Mrs. Holloway appeared at the back fence. She was wearing her church hat, a wide-brimmed straw thing with fake cherries on it. "Jordan," she hissed, "come here, bring coffee." I walked over with my mug. "Morning, Mrs. Holloway." "My friend Gladys," she began, leaning over the chain link like she was passing state secrets. Her granddaughter was invited to the Miller girls' party last night. I took a sip of coffee. "Oh?" "Disaster," Mrs. Holloway said with grim satisfaction. "Complete disaster." She recounted the details with the precision of a war correspondent. Apparently, at 7 o'clock, the venue manager walked out and turned off the chocolate fountain machine. Just unplugged it while a kid was holding a marshmallow under it. I winced. Ouch. Then the DJ packed up at 8, said he was only paid for the basic package, which ended at 8. The invitation said the party went until midnight, so for 4 hours they had to play music off Stacy's iPhone plugged into a Bluetooth speaker that kept dying. "And the food?" I asked. "Cash bar," Mrs. Holloway whispered, "for the sodas, and the Venetian dessert bar. Empty tables, just white tablecloths with nothing on them. Gladys said people were leaving by 9:30. They were stopping at McDonald's on the way home." She paused, looking at me closely. "Gladys said your mother spent the whole night in the bathroom crying loud enough to be heard in the hallway, and Stacy was running around telling everyone that a banking error ruined the night." "A banking error," I repeated. "That's what she called you," Mrs. Holloway said, "but nobody bought it. Gladys said everyone knows you're the only one in that family who actually pays bills." I thought that would be the end of it. I thought the shame would drive them underground for at least a month. I was wrong. Shame requires self-awareness. My family only had entitlement. Monday morning, I was at work terminating fiber optic cables in a patch panel. My work email pinged. From Marilyn Crawford. Subject Statement of Damages. Final Notice. I stared at the screen. They had found my work email. I opened it. It wasn't a rant. It was an Excel spreadsheet, rows and columns. Item 1. Emotional distress. Tanya. $1,000. Item 2. Reputation damage. Stacy. $500. Item 3. Emergency catering. Pizza ordered at 10 p.m. $300. Item 4. Therapy sessions for Marilyn. Anticipated $2,000. Total due $3,800. At the bottom, in red text, Jordan, this is your mess. You pulled the rug out. You humiliated us. If this is not paid by Friday, we are going to small claims court. We have witnesses who heard you promise to pay. I laughed. I laughed so hard my boss poked his head out of his office. You okay, Jordan? I'm great, Dave, I said, just reading a piece of fiction. They actually thought they could bill me for the consequences of their own fraud. Witnesses who heard you promise. That would be Mitch, and maybe Stacy. Liars backing up liars. I didn't delete the email. I printed it. I walked to the break room table and laid the paper down. I took a thick red permanent marker from my tool belt. Across the spreadsheet, in letters 3 inches high, I wrote, Return to sender. Refer to police case 40922B. No. I took a photo of the page. I replied to the email. I didn't type any text. I just attached the photo. Sent. Then I logged into the HR portal for my company. Request change of contact information. I changed my phone number. I had already bought a new SIM card on my lunch break. I changed my email address alias. I went to the front desk and spoke to the security guard, a burly guy named Sal. Sal, if anyone named Marilyn, Stacy, or Mitch shows up asking for me, they are trespassing. Call the cops. Sal nodded. You got it, Jordan. Bad breakup? The worst, I said. I'm breaking up with my entire childhood. 3 weeks later, a Saturday in late November, the air was crisp and smelled of dried leaves. My backyard looked different. The beat-up grill was still there, but the air wasn't heavy with desperation anymore. It was a just because barbecue. Brendan, the pizza guy, was there. It turned out he lived 3 streets over and was studying computer science, and he had come over to help me troubleshoot my Wi-Fi and stayed for a burger. Mrs. Holloway was there, sitting in her own lawn chair, holding court with a plate of potato salad. Max was running around with 4 of his school friends. Mom, watch this, he yelled, throwing a football that spiraled perfectly into Brendan's hands. Nice arm, kid, Brendan yelled back. I looked around. There was no expensive cake, just brownies Mrs. Holloway made. There were no hired entertainers, just a Bluetooth speaker playing 80s rock. There was no tension. Nobody was checking their watch. Nobody was judging the brand of chips. I took a bite of my burger. It tasted like charcoal and ketchup and peace. You did good, kid, Mrs. Holloway said, nudging my leg with her sneaker. Yeah, I said, watching Max laugh. I think I finally cleared the cache. Update, 3 months later. It has been 90 days since the Sweet 16 incident. My bank account balance is currently $2,400. It turns out, when you aren't paying for your brother's car insurance, your sister's emergencies, and your mother's lifestyle, money actually accumulates. I bought a new car battery, a really good one. I bought Max the expensive cleats for soccer season. I enrolled in a certification course for network security so I can get a raise. The family? Well, the silence didn't last forever, but the access did. My Aunt Linda told me that Marilyn is telling everyone I had a mental breakdown and joined a cult that forbids me from talking to my family. Honestly? Let them believe it. If being financially stable and emotionally healthy is a cult, I am the high priestess. Stacy tried to friend request me on Facebook from a fake profile named Sparkle Queen. I knew it was her because she used the same profile picture as her Tinder. Blocked. Mitch got arrested again last month. DUI. I saw it in the local paper. I didn't call the bail bondsman. I didn't call the lawyer. I didn't empty my savings account. I just turned the page and finished my coffee. Last night, Max asked me if we were going to Grandma's for Christmas. Nobody, I said. We're going to a cabin, just us. We're going to see snow. Cool, he said, and he went back to his video game. He doesn't miss them. He misses the idea of them, and I'm realizing that I don't miss them either. I miss the people I pretended they were, but I like the person I am now a lot better. She has a spine, she has a savings account, and she has a lock on her door that only opens for people who knock with respect. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.